ego baptizo te, in nomine Patris, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
1783. A priest stands on the banks of the Nassau River to baptize a new Catholic into the faith. The times are uncertain. After battling for years with the French and the British, Spain controls Florida. A census counts 103 Catholic families on Amelia Island. There is no record of a church building, but services were said to have taken place in the area of Old Town Fernandina.
The first missionaries were Jesuits and Franciscans. There were no houses, no other buildings for them to live in. In spite of all, they were not afraid because they had that deep faith within them, understanding the meaning of life only in the perspective of the gospel message, and they wanted everyone to know that. The first missionaries were martyred here, one of which is Miguel de Aunan, the French missionary, and St. Michael is named after him. That is why they were willing to make all the sacrifices possible to bring that good news to the people, to save people, and thereby give the community a new value system to live by. So they planted the seeds here that grew up into this fruit-bearing tree of St. Michael's Parish.
The whole block that the church and the school sits on belonged to the Villanueva family. They wanted a church in the community, so they donated the land to build the church. The land grant was a major donation to the church, to the diocese. And the diocese must maintain that land as a cemetery for that family.
Fernandina was a booming town, and not only did you have the railroad coming through, but it's the birthplace of the shrimping industry on the east coast of the United States. And a lot of those families that came over, they were all Catholic. They needed a place to worship, a place to gather, a place to be. And we've been the only Catholic church here for 150 years.
Walking around this campus actually brings graceful feelings within me. The reason is when I come to the front of the church, I see there the first pastors of St. Michael. And they were also the people who had to make that sacrifice of coming here, serving the community, bring the faith and growing, making people grow in their faith, and finally dying here. One of them died at the age of 26, and their tombs are there. It is really an honor to be here after several priests and missionaries who did their best and did all that they could in service of God for the community. It is actually a humbling feeling to see how God sent me after these great people. But it is because of the love that the community has shown to the priests here over the years. They accept all priests with love. 2 years after the church was established in 1872, French nuns, very young, who did not know much about the world, only because of their faith and missionary zeal, started the school in a small room for a few children, including African American children. But then the need grew as more people came to this island, and there were more children. They educated everyone irrespective of their faith or race. And through the children in the community, among the parents, and their influence was really fabulous.
I think those women were probably the strongest people on earth to leave home to a place you've never been, and that goes for Sister Josephine and Sister Rose.
When I came to St. Michael, actually I was so happy because totally changed my ministry to the parish ministry. So that's feel like a family. The St. Joseph Sisters laid a great foundation in this church and the academy. That's the reason the academy is going great. The new generation like me and we are grateful to God for their service. That's we enjoying right now.
And you know, when there was yellow fever, they did not stay back. They went out of their way to serve sick people. And you know, 2 of them had to give their life at a young age.
The nuns that are buried out at Boscobella, when you read the birth date, you realize these were 20, 21-year-olds. They served all of Fernandina at that time. They didn't care what faith you were, who you were, if you had money or not. And you have to know they probably knew that they were going to get it too.
It was the main leaders of the city that were pallbearers at her funeral, and all the stores and institutions on the island were closed in honor of the sisters.
St. Michael's is just a big part of my life. Back when I was a child growing up, and then marrying and raising children, and then raising grandchildren in the faith, St. Michael's is home.
I met my husband in 1956, and then we got married here at St. Michael's. I had 4 children. My little boy said to me, "Mommy, why don't you go to church with me and Daddy?" So I decided to go to church with his daddy and him every Sunday because of him wanting me to. And over a period of years, I began to want to take communion. It was really the Holy Spirit, I'm sure, dealing with me, you know. And so then I took instructions and became a Catholic in 1966. And then I got involved in everything. I've joined every organization there was to join, except I couldn't join the priesthood, but the Bible says we're all priests unto God. It was an adventure, and it was exciting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did it for over 50-something years. And one of the priests that we had, he had a beautiful singing voice, and he came up there one time when we were practicing, and he says, "No more alto, no more alto." And I sang alto, and my friend sang alto. So we all sang harmony from then on. I don't know what he was hearing, but evidently didn't sound very good.
Parish was getting very large. It was not a very large church at the time. The priest that was here and his committee submitted several plans to the church, and none of which really were recognized by the National Historic Foundation. Father Joes came and created a committee. And one thing that Father Joes told us whenever he was getting the committee together, he said, "This is not my church. This is your church." This is the culmination of what they came up with. It increased the seating, and it was fortunately passed by the Historic District Council. When they were rebuilding the altar, there was black and white tile down in a checkerboard. You remember the communion rail, where the priest used to walk up and down to give communion? We found where it was bolted into the floor. When we redid the balcony in the back, the stairs were reversed.
Were there any treasures uncovered during the remodel?
Is that thing off?
I'm going to say the transformation of this church building itself was made to look seamless.
From the beginning of the church, late 1700s, when the church was first built by the Irish railroad men, if they happened to walk up and go into that front door, they would say, "Oh my gosh, this is what we built. This is still here."
The original stained glass windows are still here. They're the same windows I looked at for the past 63 years with the same names up there.
The Mass itself is very close to my heart. Yes, we've expanded the building, but the altar is where I find the beauty of the church.
Bishop Estevez makes sure that he gets here to celebrate our St. Michael's feast. This year was very special because he inaugurated the 150th celebrations.
And so this candle will be a reminder of celebration of the 150 years of parish community of St. Michael in Fernandina.
We have a great history to share with other people, and people were really excited about it.
The 150th anniversary means is wow, that we've been here that long and that the church has gone through many changes and it's still here.
Some of my favorite memories are, of course, the Shrimp Festival. Everybody loves the Shrimp Festival, and the men's club used to do all the cooking.
It was the privilege of the Catholic pastor to bless the fleet. And it is a joy, and it is see everybody greeting, and they are happy to see a Catholic priest there. So we make sure to go there.
I was always proud of the fact that our priest was down there blessing the fleet, and the disciples were all fishermen.
We also had the Parish Picnics with tents and games, and we did that twice a year.
When I'm out in the park in front of the grotto, very peaceful out there in front of the Blessed Mary Virgin statue.
Mr. Frank Mayer built that grotto by hand from the ground up with rocks that he found out in the river. Of course, we paved around there and put a picnic table in, and you can sit there and say the rosary or just sit and think, and that's one of my favorite places.
My brother and I still come to church at 8 o'clock, and sometimes our sister will meet us there, and we always sit around the same place that my father always would sit. So we're old habits, and on some mornings, the sun will shine through the stained glass window, the round up there on the altar, and the beauty of the sun coming through there in the rays is just gives you a calming feeling.
When I came to the church, I just kneel down the first pews, look at Jesus raising his hands like this. To me, he's looking at me.
When I come to church, I could have the worst morning, the worst day, and I sit in here and it washes away.
My oldest boy, Billy, the one that got me to come to church, he lectured up there too. When he was college age, he did. When he was 19, he was at college. He and his roommate they had moved off campus because they couldn't study in the dorms, and so they had an apartment which I had never seen, and it had a gas heater, and it was real cold. It was after Christmas. They went to bed, and they didn't leave a window open, and the gas asphyxiated them while they were sleeping. So God was such a comfort to me. We had the funeral here, and that's when we bought the plots out of the cemetery for Billy. He loved this church, and he was a good boy.
Well, being together helps you emotionally and spiritually to get through the ups and downs of life, really.
St. Michael's has impacted people, and there's always a loving community, a loving church. When my father was sick, the Women's Guild sent him a blanket, they sent him a card, so they are constantly always reaching out, even if you don't know it, even total strangers. They will offer their prayers, their love, and it's pretty awesome.
St. Michael Parish is so unique, it's such a historic parish. 150 years, a lot of reasons to celebrate. A lot of generations have been touched by the care and the love of St. Michael's Parish. Congratulations in your 150 years.
There's so many things here that make you appreciate the people that have lived here and have passed on, all the good things that they did. And I just loved being here at St. Michael's.
I look back just with pure admiration that they have dedicated themselves not only to God, but to serving. I think to serve God.
When my children were younger, I started helping with the religious ed classes. And my children are in their 30s now, and I'm still helping with religious ed. I'm just in awe every time I see that they receive the body and blood of Christ.
That is my hope and my prayers with my children and my grandchildren, that in 50 years, this will still be their St. Michael's Parish.
So I see how this community of faithful of St. Michael's grew from that seed of faith, and that is why when I come to the front of the church, I feel that connection to faith.
The people of the St. Michael Church, they love the church and they love the community. It's amazing.
When you see something that lasted 150 years, we must be doing something right.
Everything has history in it, and it is a rich history of faith and love.
I think 150 years is something special and still continues the way it was started.